Hi friends, Krista here. Thanks for stopping by Books and Jams. It is Monday in March, and I'm calling this Middle Grade Monday. All month on Mondays, I'm going to be posting a video about middle grade. Last week was March 1st, and I posted that big recommendations video, which included a lot of wonderful booktubers and a lot of fantastic books. So if you haven't checked that out yet, please do. It'll be linked down below. And I hope that your middle grade March is starting off fantastically. I have already completed 6 books. Today's actually Sunday, so maybe I'll be finishing one more today. But as of right now, I have completed 6 books. And I'm going to tell you about the 6 that I already read, as well as what I'm currently reading. And I'll do the same thing for the next couple Mondays to keep you in the loop. This way, at the end of the month, I don't have to go through a whole ton of books. I can more wrap up the month in stats in different ways at the end of the month. So let's just dive right in. I feel a little bit funny because you're watching this before you've even seen my February wrap up, but that's okay. We're going to wrap up the first week in March. So the first book that I completed for middle grade March is Malamander by Thomas Taylor. I'm going to put it on this side. There's more room. And this is a fun story of a young boy named Herbert Lemon. Herbert is an orphan and he lives at this big hotel, Grand Hotel, and he's the lost and founder. The hotel brings items that got lost and he helps track down who they belong to, and there are things in there that have been there for quite a long time. Well, one evening while he is at work, a young girl pops through his window. It's kind of in the basement of this hotel. A girl pops through and recruits his help to discover what happened to her parents years ago. And in the process, they come across some suspicious people in town, a sea creature called the Malamander that seems to be evil. Is it really? There's an egg that can grant wishes. There's a mechanical monkey that predicts which book you need to read. It's a super fun mystery that I just absolutely loved. And I believe there's a sequel. I believe there's another one as well. But yeah, I had so much fun reading this book. It was definitely very cute. And I love that there were quite a lot of illustrations throughout that were just lovely. So here's one of the suspicious characters. Yeah, really great, really great illustrations and a super fun story. I was reading this for my fairy tale elements prompt, but I don't really feel like the fairy tale elements were that strong in here. It was definitely a little bit fantasy related, but I don't think this ended up fitting really any of the prompts. But it was a fun way to start the month because I really enjoyed that one. Next, I listened to Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry by Mildred D. Taylor, and this is a 5-star read for me. This did fit the book for the decade that I was born. This was written in 1976, and it did receive a Newbery in 1977. I absolutely loved this story of the Logan family. I think it takes place in the 1930s, and this takes place over the course of 1 year. The Logan family owns land in the South. They are pretty strong members of the community, but it's also a year where there are night riders who drive around and harass and torture and lynch Black people. And the racial tensions are just very, very high. It's all very tenuous, and the white people who have power in town are putting some pressure on them. The mother tries to get people to shop at a different store because of the situation at the store where they are shopping. The mom was a teacher at school. She gets let go. There's just a lot of tough situations happening. But in the midst of it, we have this Logan family who are so loving and strong and trying to find that balance between being safe and doing and saying things that will protect you and your family, but also bucking the system a little bit and recognizing that the system is wrong and that yes, these things are wrong, but how do we stay safe within that? It's a tough balance to find, I can imagine. And I just really loved how Mildred D. Taylor handles it. And actually, this is her. So like the kids in the Logan family are the next generation up from Mildred D. Taylor. So her dad, I believe, was one of the brothers. And then her grandparents were the parents in this story. So a lot of family connection. You could tell she really had a love for this family, and I had a love for them as well. And I believe this is the first in a series. So I'm going to have to read more from this author because I really, really loved this, and very excited to also read a Newbery. This was my first 5-star of the month. So good. Another book that I just loved is Before the Ever After by Jacqueline Woodson. This is one that Mary from Happily Ever Ash recommended in that video last Monday. And it is a book written in verse. And it really chronicles this son's experience. His father was a pro football player, but because of so many concussions is now experiencing a lot of mental difficulties, depression, memory loss, mood swings, and it is really tricky for this preteen boy to see his father affected in such a way. They have to tiptoe around the house at times because his dad's headaches are just so incredibly severe. ZJ is the boy's name. He also has this friend group that is just phenomenal. I fell in love with his friend group, and I just love the way Jacqueline Woodson can take such a simple moment but invoke so much emotion out of these simple day-to-day moments. I don't know. I think she's brilliant. I loved this book of poetry. It's so good. So good. Because I don't care about football really, but I love a family story. And so the connection between the father and son, and music plays a big part in that as well. Oh, so good. Another book that I listened to on audio is Island of the Blue Dolphins by Scott Odell. This is another Newbery book that won, 1960, I think. It was written in 1960. So yes, a little bit older. And this was a fun survival story. Our main character is Karana, and she lives on this island in the Pacific. And at one point, her family and village all have to leave the island. There's a group of fishermen who come from somewhere and end up killing a lot of the men. And then the rest of the village escapes on a boat to go, I forget where, but somehow Karana ends up trapped on the island. Karana is alone on this island for a long time. And we just kind of see how she survives. How does she get food? How does she build her shelter? And how does she eventually escape? And it's just a love story to nature and the strength of this young girl. I really enjoyed this one. I did feel like it ended a little too quickly. I was like working on this while I was working on a puzzle. And I was like, wait a minute, it's over? It's just over? That's it? So I didn't care for the ending as much, but I loved the strength of this girl and how she survived. I thought it was really cool. Cool story. I liked that a lot. My second 5-star of the month already happened, and that is Echo Mountain by Lauren Wolk. I'm so glad I finally read this. This copy was gifted to me by Owl Crate Jr. last middle grade March, and I finally got around to reading it. And Lauren Wolk is one of the 6 authors that I would like to read this year. So check for the goals, getting things knocked off my goals. This is the story of Ellie and her family who have to move up into a mountain in Maine because of the depression. The dad is a tailor. He loses his job. The mom's a teacher. She loses her job, basically. And they move up onto Echo Mountain. And it's really difficult for Ellie's sister and mother in particular. Ellie doesn't find it super difficult. She finds that she kind of loves living on the mountain. She finds that she has a connection with the animals and with nature, and surviving on the mountain, it really suits her very well. Then one day there's an accident that happens and the father becomes greatly injured and is actually in a coma. Ellie takes on the guilt of this accident upon herself and really wants to find a way to bring her dad out of this coma. She tries a lot of drastic measures and things that her mother is not too thrilled about, but also wants to try to go find this old hag, this woman who lives up further on the mountain, who possibly has some healing abilities as well. So it's just the story of Ellie and her family and the mountain and her connection with it. And it was lovely. I have heard some people say that they thought it was a little bit slower paced. And while I agree with that, I didn't feel like it was so slow that it wasn't moving anywhere. I definitely felt connected to Ellie and her story, and I was invested all the way through. So Echo Mountain, so good. I can't wait to read more from Lauren Wolk. And I just love that cover. So good. This would fit the family prompt for sure. So there's that. And the last book that I've completed so far in March is another one that I listened to, The Miscalculations of Lightning Girl. This was gifted to me in the Christmas book exchange by Lindsay from Lindsay's Little Library. Thank you, Lindsay. This was a lovely story of Lightning Girl. Her actual name is Lucy. And when Lucy was in 2nd grade, she was, I think, holding onto a fence or something. It got struck by lightning and the lightning went into her. And she survived, was fine health-wise, but she became a mathematical genius, a savant. She can do all kinds of math super quickly. However, she also has a little bit of OCD now. I don't know, a little bit. That I shouldn't say that. She also has OCD tendencies now as well. The numbers of pi, when she starts to get nervous, or if she doesn't do her little triggers, she'll have the numbers of pi take over her mind. Like she can't concentrate or think about anything else. So whenever she goes to sit down somewhere, she has to sit, stand, sit 3 times. Or when she stops moving, she has to tap her foot 3 times, or else these numbers kind of take over. So she has some OCD tendencies that have become a part of this as well. And she has to go to school for the first time in this book. She had been, since 2nd grade, she's been kind of doing school at home and finishes high school classes and AP classes and is talking about going to college. And she's just in middle school, 7th grade. But she ends up going to school for the first time and tries to hide her genius because she just wants to fit in. She's not sure how what the other kids are going to think about her. And she already stands out because of these tics that she has, the sitting and standing and the tapping her foot and all that. So she wants to try to hide her mathematical genius, but of course it comes out. And yeah, just a lovely story about accepting who you are and letting your light shine. Really, I loved it. It was really sweet story. I am in the middle of 3 books right now. In the middle is a loose term, but I am reading one adult novel right now from Sand and Ash by Amy Harmon. Amy Harmon is another of the 6 authors that I really want to read before the end of the year. And I'm reading this with Melissa from Libraries and Labradors. She has a Discord group for her buddy/group reads. And so I'm reading this with that group. So I'm not going to talk too much about it right here. I also started last night The Extremely Inconvenient Adventures of Bronte, Middlestone by Jacqueline Moriarty. Oh, Jacqueline Moriarty is the sister of Leanne Moriarty. That's what somebody was talking about in that group, and I didn't make that connection. But yes, this is Leanne Moriarty's sister. So this is an Aussie tale. So delightfully fun. I'm only like a couple chapters in, maybe 25 pages in, and I giggled out loud. I think it's going to be a delightful read. And I'm really excited for that one. But before I finish or get further in that one, I am going to go ahead and finish A Wish in the Dark by Christina Soon-Tornvon. She won a Newbery Honor for this book, as well as one of her other books this year. So this is a current Newbery Honor winner. And it's set in a a fantasy world that's Thai inspired. And it also is inspired by Les Miserables, which is my favorite musical, and I just love the story and the push and pull between the law and justice and mercy. And so this is a Les Mis type story set with middle grade age kids, like 10-year-old kids, I believe they're 10, with a Thailand like inspiration, like the fantasy world that they live in is very Thai-like, which I can tell there's a floating market. Some of the fruit they eat is stuff that I saw when I was in Thailand. I'm very inspired by Thailand, which is so cool. Yeah, I'm going to love this one. And I have a feeling it's going to make me cry. So I am about halfway. Nah, not quite halfway. I'm about 130 pages into this one as well. So that's my first middle grade wrap up of the month. Have you read any of these books? Here are the 6 that I've read so far. I would love to know if you've read any of these or how your month is going if you're participating in Middle Grade March. Remember, you only need to read one. You don't need to go as crazy as I go. If you just read one, you're in. Let's chat down in the comments below. You guys know I love talking with you down there. Be sure to give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I can't wait to tell you more about my middle grade reads next Monday. Be sure to check out all the information in the description box below of ways to support my channel and connect with me. And I will be talking with you in another video very soon. Bye.